On a cold and rain-soaked night in Michigan, 19-year-old Renisha McBride was alone, injured, and confused. She had just crashed her car, disoriented and bleeding, wandering away from the wreck in search of help. Her head was pounding from a concussion, her hand severely wounded, but what no one knew yet was how much worse things were going to get. Renisha made her way through the darkened streets of Dearborn Heights, eventually arriving at a quiet house. Desperate and likely frightened, she began banging on the front door pleading for someone, anyone, to answer. But when the door finally opened, she wasn't met with compassion. She was met with a shotgun blast. On the morning of November 2nd, 2013, local police received a 911 call just after 4:30 a.m. The other end? Theodore Wafer, "I just shot someone on my porch," he told the dispatcher, breathless. Officers rushed to the scene and quickly found Renisha McBride already dead from a close-range gunshot wound to the head. Theodore, still reeling from what had happened, was questioned by police right outside his home. She kept knocking, banging on the windows. "I didn't know what was going on," he explained. "I opened the door and it just discharged. I didn't even know it was loaded." But investigators weren't convinced. Theodore's version of the story wasn't adding up, and detectives began digging deeper to find out if this was a genuine accident or something much more sinister. He told officers the noises terrified him. The pounding was relentless. He said he thought someone was trying to break in. At that hour, he claimed, it felt like a threat, and he reacted on instinct. But something felt off. At the station, Theodore's nervousness only grew. He asked whether he needed a lawyer but didn't clearly invoke his right to one. That meant the detectives could continue pressing him, and they did. He claimed again that the shooting was accidental, that the gun just went off. He described fumbling with the pistol-grip shotgun, trying to open the door with one hand and holding the weapon in the other. But as he reenacted the scene, detectives noticed something strange. The angle he described didn't match the trajectory of the wound. Renisha had been shot in the forehead, just above the jawline. For that to happen, the gun would have had to be aimed directly at her head, not simply held at waist level. Suddenly, this didn't seem like a panicked mistake. It looked more like an intentional act, and legally, that changes everything. Under Michigan's Castle Doctrine, you are allowed to use deadly force if someone is breaking into your home and you fear for your life. But according to his own words, Theodore had actually opened the door, inviting the danger in. That move alone cast serious doubt on any claim of self-defense. Adding to the tragedy, new evidence came to light during the investigation. Earlier that night, around 1 a.m., police had received a report of a car crash nearby. A woman believed to be intoxicated had collided with a parked car and fled the scene on foot. Officers didn't locate her, even after someone later reported she'd briefly returned to the crash site. That woman, was Renisha McBride. It's believed that between the time of the crash and the shooting, Renisha, likely concussed and intoxicated, was wandering the neighborhood, lost and looking for help. Had emergency responders gotten to her sooner, she might still be alive. Some argue that Theodore's reaction was a tragic but understandable mistake. Others insist that Renisha's death was a product of implicit bias, fear, and an overreaction driven by race. Either way, prosecutors moved forward with charges: second-degree murder, manslaughter, and a felony firearm offense. At trial, Theodore's story shifted. Now, he claimed the shooting was intentional, but still in self-defense. He said he feared Renisha was about to break in and harm him. But the judge didn't buy it. The jury found that Renisha's actions, banging on the door, however loudly, didn't pose an immediate enough threat to justify the use of deadly force. On September 3, 2014, Theodore Wafer was found guilty on all charges. He received 15 to 30 years for second-degree murder, 7 to 15 years for manslaughter, 2 years for the firearm charge, all served concurrently. Theodore's defense team called the sentence a de facto life sentence since he was already in his mid-50s when convicted. But the case didn't end there. In 2015, Wafer appealed, and to many people's surprise, the Michigan Supreme Court sided with him. They ruled that convicting him of both murder and manslaughter was contradictory under state law, since one implies intent and the other does not. His manslaughter conviction was vacated. Still, at his resentencing in 2022, the judge refused to lower his punishment, stating that the original sentence remained appropriate. So, although one of the charges is now gone, Theodore Wafer will still serve up to 30 years behind bars for pulling the trigger that ended Renisha McBride's life. A series of avoidable tragedies, a moment of fear, and a decision that can never be undone.